one of the most interesting games we've seen at BMO Field. Toronto FC found a way to advance to the Eastern Conference Final while eliminating the New York Red Bulls from playoff action. Welcome to a very special After 90 presented by Kia. Gareth Wheeler and Caroline Szwed here with you. And Gareth,
have you caught your breath, by the way?
Have you? Because I'm still having chest pains from this game, and I'm sure you fans are too. And you know, what's kind of hard to process is yes, Toronto FC may have lost the game here today, but essentially they win in the end because we are the team. Toronto FC is the team that has advanced to the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, the away goals rule benefits Toronto FC in this case, and it just makes that Sebastian Giovinco wonder free kick in New York that much more important. And that's what the position that Toronto FC placed themselves in, forcing the Red Bulls to come here to BMO Field, where Toronto FC doesn't concede many goals, just 15 on the year. They had to come here and score at least 2. Easier said than done, right? Like, obviously, Toronto's defensive back line was great. The home field advantage that Toronto FC gets throughout the MLS Cup playoffs all the way to MLS Cup, that is well earned. It's difficult with the crowd right on top of you. They were so loud over the stretch of that game, helping Toronto FC cross that finish line. So all of those elements came into play. And look, it wasn't a masterpiece, but we see in European championships, we see in World Cups where these knockout games play out, and they're not pretty. It's an epic struggle, and it was there tonight. TFC was throwing curveballs. Some calls didn't go their way. 2 goals got called back, but at the end of the day, they dug in. The effort, the work rate was exceptional, and that should be the overriding sentiment coming out of this matchup, that no matter how the game's played, this Toronto FC team is going to be very difficult to beat.
Gareth, I completely agree with you, and so does Captain Michael Bradley, because he says he believes that this team deserves to advance to the next round without a doubt.
You've got to try to find the right way to match their intensity and to match what they're putting into it, but also not let it phase you, to not let it put you off. It's a fine line. It's not always going to be perfect, but again, we, over the course of 180 minutes, we handled things in a really big way, and we deservedly go through. And so quite honestly, I don't want to hear any other narrative at the end of it. 180 minutes, we go through, plain and simple.
Gareth, there was an incident that happened in the tunnel prior to the second half that resulted in 2 players, one on New York Red Bull and Jozy Altidore, being sent off with a red card. And then we saw a couple other cards presented in the second half. How did that change the whole style of play as the game progressed?
Well, it was an emotional night, and I think that that's what the Red Bulls were trying to do. They know that they weren't the better team coming here to BMO Field, and the way to get after Toronto FC was get under their skin a little bit and try to make sure that that there was maybe a lack of composure there, but Toronto FC kept their shape strong throughout. That's what I liked. The double sending off between Sasha Klestra and Jozy Altidore, I mean, that had a huge effect on the game, and I think it played to the Red Bulls' favor because Toronto FC had to reorganize. And I give the coaching staff a lot of credit. They let the team as is start the second half. They realized that they were up against it a little bit. Then they adjusted. They brought on Nick Hagelin to settle the center back position, change the shape of the back line. They brought on Nico Hassler, a player that maybe has a little bit more legs, especially on a cold, damp night. And they brought in Jonathan Osorio, a player who's very good in possession. I thought he did very good when coming on as well. So they changed the shape, and the way that they ended was much better than the way that they started the second half of play. But if you were the Red Bulls and you know that Toronto FC lose their target man in Jozy Altidore coming out of the half, that was going to give the Red Bulls a massive lift. So for that time, it was about Toronto FC adapting, evolving, and I think they got better at it as the second half went on.
Let's move on to Alex Bono. Unfortunately, that fluke of a goal went past Alex Bono.
I couldn't even believe. I wasn't even sure what happened at the time.
Me neither. You and I both, Gareth. And then you see him make a huge save that questionably saved Toronto FC at the end of the day.
Well, he only had to make 2 saves on the day, but that was the moment that helped Toronto FC save their season, to put it bluntly, because if the Red Bulls and Bradley Wright Phillips scores that goal, I believe it was in the 61st minute, then Toronto FC's down 2-0 on the night, and the New York Red Bulls had those 2 away goals, then TFC would have to go and score the other way. Bono came out, made himself big, actually said post-match that he thought Wright Phillips was going to try to chip it over him. Instead, Bradley Wright Phillips tried to play it across him, got out that big leg. And for such a young goalkeeper, his understanding, his read of the play, it was top notch. If Bondo doesn't get man of the match, I think it's Drew Moore. Did you see him having a bad ankle out there? Because he was everywhere. So many balls that the defensive players won over the course of the game. Just, I have nothing but good things to say about Toronto FC's defensive shape. Yes, they had goals called back that shouldn't have. Azori on the far post being called offside. Vasquez quick free kick. I thought that should have stood as well. But it was the defensive play that helped see Toronto FC through.
Drew Moore, Eric Zavaleta, Mavinga, you know, Nick Hagelin winning these aerial battles that are not, I didn't see the ball drop more than once, honestly. They're winning the balls in the air. They're making these defensive efforts. Michael Bradley cleaning up the ball after they make this first attempt. I think defensively, Toronto FC
That's what you have to do.
Well.
That's what you have to do against a desperate team. And the Red Bulls, full credit to them, they threw everything and that much more against the wall, hoping that something would stick. But Toronto FC just kept on rejecting it time after time and did enough to advance to the Eastern Conference Championship.
A couple weeks off now for Toronto FC, so probably back to practice. We know that they're at practice tomorrow and rest and recovery.
Well, they're going to have to come up with a game plan, how they want to line up for the first leg of the tie, no matter who they play. At this time of taping, we're not sure who that is, but Javinko will be suspended for the first leg after picking up his second caution of the playoffs thus far. And Josie Altidore will wait and see what the video shows. It's going to be submitted to MLS, so we'll see what plays out with Josie Altidore.
For all updates on your Reds, visit torontofc.ca.